Hello, fellow warriors. Welcome to another episode of Divided, Survived, and Thriving. I am Laila Aitken Ali, a divorce coach, and the founder of Split FYI, which is an online divorce community with like-minded and kindred spirits, rich in resources and information for anyone going through a divorce or separation. So, for those of you who have not joined me before, I'd love to tell you that I enjoy interviewing badass humans who have not only survived divorce, but have come out the other side, and they took control of their lives and they rewrote their story. So these conversations are about turning painful process of divorce into a positive force in your life. I get to host so many stories of resilience, passion, grit, familiarity, grace, and survival. Stories are our reminder that no matter how hard it gets, you can get through it and learn so much from it, heal from it, and embrace the journey ahead. So without further ado, my next guest is the energetic breath of fresh air, Rana Davis. Rana Davis, also known as Shug. I met Rana last year on one of my coffee mornings that I host on Split FYI. Her empathy and her loving energy are a strong force in her personality. She knows all too well the breakdown of marriage and the process of letting go. At 45, Rana decided to leave her husband after 23 years of marriage. She made a very hard and bold decision to not only leave her marriage, but to leave her family home behind. Discovery created the new chapter in life, and hence, Shug, struggling under grace, was birthed. So today we will dive into her story, how she came to make such a hard decision, and how she prepared for it, and why Shug. We will also learn about letting go, identity shifts, moving on, and self-discovery. But most of all, her commitment to helping others live an unapologetically of the past. It's like, wow, can't even formulate that today. It's that morning. Shug, thank you for being here. So I think let's just start from the beginning. What led you to make that hard decision, letting go of your marriage, a long marriage?
Well, thank you, first of all, for the invite. Thank you, first of all, for the invite. And I just want to just correct something. And at 45, at the age of 45, I started feeling a stirring that I was becoming disconnected from my marriage. Up until that point, I've been as kind of a stay-at-home mom in the sense that I've always been an entrepreneur, sold real estate, PTO mom, fall festival mom, and I was very involved with the kids. So I always made sure that I had a position that was conducive to me being at home, more or less. And so about at 45, and I got married September 11th, 1980. So by the age of 45, I think I had been married at that time about 23 years.
Right.
And I just felt a disconnect, and I did. And I remember throwing a birthday party for myself, and I invited about 10 of my girlfriends, had never given myself a birthday party. And we had it at New Orleans restaurant here. I'm in Columbia, South Carolina. And, it was just such a festive time, yet in my core, I just knew something was changing, had no idea what it was. Right. And I remember telling my husband, sharing those thoughts with my husband. And the phrase that I had said was, we're going to be in trouble. I had no idea what trouble meant. I remember saying that. And I remember where I was. I was in the kitchen, and he was in the, kitchen, it had the eating area, and he was in the eating part, and I was cooking dinner. And I remember, if I didn't say that, I remember thinking it. I said, we're going to be in trouble.
Right.
And so it was because we were so involved with the children from day one. And that's the number one rule that I'll do. I will do differently next time. Well, next time I won't have children yet. In the marriage, I think we get it twisted.
Right.
We put the children, then the husband. And so what happens is then when years pass, this is not always the case for everyone. It's like, who's the husband? You've had these children. So we did like most couples do, and we do it innocently and thinking we're doing the right thing. They're our children. They need us. Okay. So I just felt like we were disconnected. We were vacationing. We were doing things. We had financial problems along the way. We always kind of dealt with it. And so he worked 2 jobs. because of the financial issues. And so I was the heavy. I handled everything.
Right.
Everything. Yet I was used to that because I started, I was a wife, a mother, and widow. This is my second marriage. I was a widow when I met my ex-husband now. And so for the next, from when I was 45, I guess for about the next 5 years,
Okay.
I tried to work on it.
All right.
What does that mean? We didn't do counseling. He didn't believe in counseling.
Okay.
And if I can just maybe make a segue here, in the Black community, counseling therapy, it's not the first resort,
Right.
if it's any resort. So that was a mentality. I was a Northerner. I came from Baltimore. So I was more free. And I was like, let's do that. And he said, no, I don't think so. I don't, I don't blame him for that.
Right.
Because that was his reality. He was
Uncomfortable
uncomfortable
with it.
Yes. So the stirring came. And I remember even from about 45 on to the time when I made the move, verbalizing this, even to my children, you just wait until I get my 2-bedroom apartment. I don't know where that came from, but yet I told you there was this stirring. And sometimes you can maybe attest when there's a woman and there's this stirring in something in her soul, it is sometimes very difficult for her to just leave it buried. And so these things were welling up. And I think my kids were like, no, Ma, that's not going to happen. Or if they even said anything at all. And so along the way, I was actually buying different things. I remember going to the Goodwill, buying these just different kinds of things to fill up this 2-bedroom apartment that I had started speaking about.
Wow.
And my husband saw them. I stored them in the dining room. And I think that he was aware of that time that we were, like I said, 5 years ago, we were in trouble.
Right.
Yet there was no discussion, like, why are there things there? Or if there was, I'm unable to remember that now. And maybe there's a reason that I'm unable to remember that now. If it matters, I have no idea. Does it matter? No, it doesn't. I mean, the story is done in that regard. So in 2015, I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment.
Wow. You manifested it 100%.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I remember when I decided to tell my husband and my son, who was last year in high school, and our daughter, who was about 23 at the time. Time just gets away from you. And I'm unsure, I tell that story, yet I'm unsure really to this day if I actually set them down. Maybe that was what I thought. I had to have set them down. That's what I said. I set them down, and I remember saying, I have to go. There was no mention, how long, to do what, go where, I have to go. Yet I knew, because of all those years that I had invested, that they would love me enough through that. Trust me enough to know that if a mother says that to her kids, if I said that to them, then there was definitely a reason. And you know what? Kids know that whole thing about we stay together for the kids, like they don't know. Oh my gosh, they know day one.
They see unhappiness. I say that that's an injustice to children. Yeah, children see it and they actually absorb it a lot more when they're witnessing it, when they're around it. It's a toxic environment. And, and I'm not saying that was your environment, but 9 out of 10 times, they always stick it out till the bitter end. And they're actually doing injustice to their children. And I know so many children later on in their years, like, I wish my parents divorced. I wish my parents divorced earlier on. I wish my parents. So you hear it a lot. Anyway, back to your story.
But yet, because we think that we're doing the right thing by staying together. And then there's this mixed messages. Yeah, if that's your reality, it is what it is. We all have those things. And that's why my phrase is to live life unapologetically of the past. Yes. So.
Well said. Better said than I did.
From 2015.
Oh, I'm losing you.
When I left in 2015. And I remember being a little coward because I believed, and I had this revelation the other day, my son could deal with me leaving. I left when my daughter was out of town, right? Because I was unsure. And that revelation just came to me the other day.
Okay.
I just
Interesting.
chose to do that.
It's interesting how you're still processing it too. And you're learning so much from it still, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, you have to, because Lila, it was just really, even though I left in 2015, it was just final Monday before last on February the 1st,
Amazing.
2021, because it took that long. Because
Right.
then, again, like I said, when I left, it was no discussion. It was just, I've got to go, because I just felt this disconnect. I felt like I was just drowning. It
Right.
had nothing to do with discord really in the home.
Really?
Really, even though we were disconnected, there was never like any discord. I remember though going to counseling after I left, and the counselor was saying, to my husband, did you ever, like fuss at her? Did you ever just like, tell her to sit down and shut up? And he says, no. And she said, that's your number one mistake.
Sometimes there needs to be a little bit of discord. Well, there is power into that. I mean, you hear a lot in relationships. Um, argument is also arguments are actually important as well. It connects you in a way. Not toxic arguments, not ones that you berate each other, but ones that there are proper arguments about certain things need to happen. So,
And to hear that thing, I don't like conflict. Well, there's no way that you can really survive in a relationship with avoiding conflict. And yeah, I do think that that was one of the things that played into, because wonderful, wonderful man. However, I think if he was less passive, because then I have a lot of energy, I'm aggressive. I had been on my own before we met. I had already been a mother, a wife, and a widow. So this is my second time around, so I was like, with it. I
yeah.
know. So I think that did play a role. And I remember in this counseling session, the counselor, I remember this to this day, said, so she was looking right at, I was sitting, I was sitting ahead of her, or maybe he was sitting ahead of her, and I was sitting to here. And she looks at him and she says, this woman, and points at me, is cussable.
Whoa. Okay. Tell me about that. That's interesting.
So this was even after I had left, and we were trying to work on it. And what that meant was, there are sometimes in marriages where the husband, not sometimes in marriages, I still advocate and I believe in marriage. And I believe that the husband should be the head, like the head. If he knows how,
Right.
henceforth another problem, henceforth maybe another conversation, because sometimes they don't know how.
Right.
And so in that, and he needs to take, not control, to have a hold of the family.
Okay.
And in that, being able to manage everyone in the family, and to know when, as the head, you need to put a hard stop and say, this is what we're doing. And so I was the one managing everything, and it was going awry, going to hell in a handbasket, financially. But yet he let me do it. That's the time you should have said, I mean, what is going on?
Right.
Mucking up everything. So that's when I say there are times, and that's how I took her saying that, not for him to call me out my name or to say anything, use cuss words. What she meant was, this woman, and I appreciated her saying that, maybe not in that phrase, and that did contribute, because she knew that my energy overrode his a lot of times.
Right. And I think the frustration, it sounds like the frustration you had is really that it was almost facing apathy. Like, you sit there and you're like, you want to shake him up and go, come on, have some kind of, and part of what you were doing was trying to get that reaction, and you couldn't get reactions out of him. And listen, I think it's very difficult when you're in a marriage to work on that and understand what the other person needs. Communication, as we know, is one of the most difficult things. And sometimes you do need to take yourself out of it. And it sounds like that was that feeling that was growing inside of you, is like, I need to take myself out of the equation to understand how I'm feeling, because it sounds a bit like you had a bit of guilt in the relationship of how you were operating, and you were doing everything, and everything was going crazy and out of control, and why couldn't he help you, and why am I allowing it?
Not me. The guilt, I don't think The
I don't
guilt,
know if it's guilt, but it's
no,
something.
there was a line, it didn't come until later. It was
Okay.
more frustration.
Mhm.
I was moving at a different level. I was selling real estate, and so I was out there in that market. My circle was changing. My life professionally was changing. My
Right.
inside desires were changing. It was like all of a sudden I wanted to just, and I use this a ladybug. My ladybug, I don't have it up here, but the ladybug is like one of my images because she's hard on the outside, but yet so colorful. And it was all of a sudden like I needed to burst out. And if I
Right.
could no longer do it in the marriage, people are asking me, I had a friend to ask me the other day and they said, what was it? I said, I am unable to explain it. And I don't need to. I don't need to.
100%.
I don't need to. But if you've divorced, if you're the one that asked for it, because eventually I asked for it, it's just something that just happens.
Hmm.
We just got to the point where we were unable or either and or unwilling to provide the needs of the other person.
Hmm. That's it. Simple
Yeah,
equation. Hmm.
mitigating factors, sure they were.
Hmm.
However, I just think after when I got to the point where I had to leave, when a mother, I just did a post today. Interestingly, it said 69% of divorces are initiated by women. That was
Yes.
according to 2000.
Yes.
I mean, I must be ignorant because I'm thinking men are just, divorce here, divorce there. And so, they are also the driving factor were, I think infidelity was like the final straw. Communication was one of those.
Communication. I think they don't feel heard. Women as women, we are wired in a way that we love to talk about everything. We've got our
Yeah.
girlfriend. We can do that. Yeah, we are. And I think it's difficult for a man to navigate those waters. And we have high expectations of a man to also fulfill us in that way. And we don't feel heard by them. And like you said, let's go to therapy. Let's do this. He didn't want that. And part of that is I don't feel heard. I don't feel understood. I don't feel this. And who knows if therapy would have even helped your situation, both of you, because again, when you're hardwired in a certain way, let's face it, I think therapy is for another generation, the up and coming generation. I mean, now everyone's going to therapy and they're starting at a young age and they understand that they have to work on themselves a lot more to get to where they're going. Whereas the generation of the past, even mine, I would so to speak, I mean, even my generation, would say, I am what I am. This is me. I'm wired this way. I am what I am, in many ways. And I'm not speaking for
Yeah,
everybody, but
right.
and in a relationship, there's a give and take, and and you yourself have to also understand his, it's a work in a lot of work, a lot of work. And I
Yes, it
know
is.
that we outgrow each other. You start doing different things, you really see like, how am I ever going to reconnect?
I know. Yet, I always say, and I was on with IGI Live with Angela on Monday. And so we were talking about marriage counseling. Like, what are they discussing? I don't know. We didn't get marriage counseling. We got married at the courthouse. And then after that, we had dinner at Red Lobster with with our witnesses.
Right.
Okay, we made it 30 years though.
Right.
There were things that even from my past and his past that we brought into the marriage. Everyone does. You
Right.
got to have baggage. And so I think it was a combination of just what I had been through already in the marriage. I started at 16. By 45, I was like ready almost like to do my thing. And I think it was
Right.
that too. I had
Sure.
never, I didn't go to the prom and all those things. So maybe I was maybe it was a midlife crisis. I don't know. It was a
No, let's not
crisis
label it
for
that. It
sure.
wasn't a crisis. It wasn't a crisis. It was a rebirth. It was a rebirth. I think you wanted to take hold of your life in a different way, which unapologetic. It's unapologetic. And that's what I love about, your story and how you help others in that, because I think a lot of us feel, well, that's okay. Even though we have this desire, we put our desires to the side and we're like, no, 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 we don't need those. We don't need those. It's stupid. The time has passed. I didn't go to prom. It's okay. I've moved on. But they accumulate. So you just
Yes, ma'am.
continuously do the things that you put aside, but yet they have a burning desire inside of you. And then it's like anything, it's combusting. And you've used these words, it's like, I just want to come out. You want to birth. You want to like
Yes.
that personality.
And I've always been a birther. So when I left, and so I took 3 years from 2015 to 2018
Mhm.
to work on me.
Right.
I was still very involved with my kids. They still loved me through.
Mhm.
Um, I still had to deal with the guilt. Now, if we're going to talk about guilt, probably that's where it may lie.
Right.
Yeah, I knew the kind of relationship I had with my children. I think their love and my relationship with them even gave me more of a push. Not that they said, go ahead and do it. I knew that they would still love me. And I knew that they knew if I had to leave, it was for a reason. And like I said, they already knew. So for 3 years, I worked on myself. I even went back to when I was 16, back to when I was 18, back to when I was 22, when I had all those experiences. And my first husband was unkind. I forgave myself for that. I
Right.
forgave myself for knowing that he was unkind before I married him, which is, I'm going to put a pin in this right now because we make choices and we marry men and women and we see the signs and we think, like I did when I was 16, I'm just going to love him enough. I'm a good girl. I came from a good family. I was in an all girls school. He's going to be all right. If you just get him under my wings, he's going to be all right. He
Right.
changed me. I mean, he literally changed me and not always for the good.
Right.
So anyway, during that 3 year period, I just forgave myself. Okay, Suge. That's when I found Suge. And I birthed Suge notes. So
Oh
as
yeah.
I do that self-reconciliation, and some people aren't allowed that space to
Mm.
deal with themselves, or if they're allowed that space, it's nasty, it's ugly.
Mhm.
I mean, I have books now that I had to write shit that I allowed in my life, decisions that I've made that I mean, so for those 3 years, I just worked on me. I did. And it was ugly. I mean, it was ugly. Yet I knew if I was given this opportunity to leave my husband
Mhm.
then and my children, I better make good use of it. I had better not say at the end of 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, I've done nothing, that I've sacrificed possibly my relationship with my kids and I've done nothing.
Right.
Oh, and so I had to talk to myself. And so this is how I get indignant with myself. I'm like,
I love
Shook,
it. I love
you
it.
know, so I birthed Shook Notes and I started writing about those experiences at 16, 18, and 22 with the unkind husband.
Right.
And once I started putting that down, I started just really being free because I'm like, once I can let people know my truth,
Right.
it will help them and it will help me. Because
For sure.
there is freedom in the truth.
Mhm.
Yet there's a lot of hurt in the truth as well. So birth shook notes and, still haven't thought about divorce, interestingly enough. And, my husband and I had kind of talked about it, just rolled it around, the
Right.
idea. I'm still toying around with it. This is what I want to do. That's a whole lot to do. Do we really have to do that? Can we just maybe just ride this thing out? You just do your thing. And that's the kind of misguided
Oh,
crap that I had because I didn't want to put it down on a piece of paper. I didn't want to go to the courthouse and file. I didn't want to do any of that. I just wanted to be, over here, and we don't need to do the legalities of it. But okay,
right.
so anyway,
Were you
that's a
afraid
lot.
of the legalities? Did you have a fear also that it was so finite that once you got divorced, it was like, okay, now it's really over? I mean, was there a struggle with you in that? Because I think that a lot of people, I mean, to be honest, your story is, one of the more amicable ones that you hear. And I mean, it is. And
It is.
in that sense, but you hear a lot of that. It's like, there's a lot of fear in that, the fear of like facing it. Oh, the D word. I wish it wasn't called divorce, honestly. I know I wish a lot of things that I would love, the
Mhm.
whole, lay of the land of divorce to be changed. And
And that's what we're
um,
trying to do here. That's exactly. It was more that feeling of no longer having a plus one.
yeah. Mm,
I mean, now I'm divorced. And so I had to go through all of that. So I didn't want to do that. I didn't until I finally realized, okay, 2020, what are you really doing? And it was this whole connection with Warren
mhm.
that I'm like, you're living a lie. How can you tell people about being divorced? You're not divorced. You're not divorced. You're separated.
Right.
And interesting. So 2018, I had to go back to the house. The same house that I left. I had to
Right.
go back because my lease I'm kind of impulsive sometimes, and I'm a Christian, and sometimes I let my Christianity get the best of me. And I said, I'm going to have faith that things are going to work out, and I have done nothing. That's just blind faith. That's foolishness. That has nothing to do with Christianity or faith. That's just being foolish. So I decided I was going to tell my landlord, because I was renting, I'm moving. And I gave him a date. And I was of the opinion, I'm shook. I have enough friends that I'm a real estate agent. I can find a place in 30 days. Guess what?
No.
So I had to call my ex, he's now my ex, and say, I don't have a place to stay. And my landlord had already rented the place. Shame on you, Shug. Shame
Right.
on you. I had
Mhm.
to call him and say, can I come back? He says, sure.
Wow.
Helps me. He even helped me move when I moved there, helped me move back to the house.
Wow.
We slept in separate bedrooms. So for 1 year, we did that. And I figured, maybe the opportunity, again, Christian, I'm like, oh God, you offered the opportunity. Maybe it's for us to reconcile. I hadn't done anything. It became obvious. I would say 2 weeks in.
Right.
That's when wow, revelation. Did you see me just have that
Yes.
right here live? Yeah. That's when it became clear
Right.
that divorce was the option.
But
That's
you
when it
went with
became
there
clear.
with the intention or you went there with that idea that maybe we can reconcile or maybe something can happen or maybe we could be together. Did you give him that hope or did he feel the same way?
Maybe I suggested it to go through the motions.
Right.
Maybe I
Mhm.
think I was done by that time. I really yet because my family was, oh, he's such a good man. Is there anything you can do? So it was like twofold. I think I
Right.
was done yet. I said, Shug, always have these kind of conversations with myself. You got to know if you're done. Have you done everything? Have
Right.
you done everything? Probably not. So had that counseling session and no, that didn't work. So I was there for a whole entire year, from 2018 February to 2019 February.
Wow.
And we ate dinner together, cooked.
It
I'm
was
very,
amicable. It
I'm
was like
very,
it's like your brother, your friend.
yeah, I am very fortunate, very blessed to have that opportunity. Yet I had a good example. My mom and dad divorced when I was probably 6.
Hmm.
Every occasion, they were always together. To this day, my dad is 91. To
Wow.
this day, we have Christmas together, thanks every holiday that we can, because they've said, we're no longer able to make it. However, the children had nothing to do with our decision.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I
I'm
think that is something that I wish, everybody could embrace that. Um, it is so important for children. It's okay. The parents don't have to be under the same roof, but they do have to be loved and they have to see that the relationship between their parents are
yeah,
amicable. Doesn't have to be in love, doesn't have to be best friends. It's just amicable. That you're able to be in the same room with each other is so important.
it's
So
part.
that is a testament to what you've also created. And I know it's your ex-husband also, but you've also created that atmosphere as well.
Yes,
Allowed
yes.
that to to be an
Yes.
okay thing. I'm okay with that. Like, I'm going to go back. I'm going to try. I know it's probably not going to work, but he's a great man.
And he deserves, and I say to this day, I pray he finds someone that will be able to support him in the way that he needs. I
Right.
was just no longer either willing or able. I'll have to figure that out. Probably a little of both. No longer willing, no longer willing. Because of course I was able. I mean, ability has to do with, I was no longer willing. That's the
Right.
truth. Because sure, we are able to do anything we put our minds to. I
Right.
just felt that it had gotten to the point where I was unable to support him in the ways that he needed. So
Right.
moved out again, 2019, birthed Suge Notes. And where Suge came from, when I first moved to South Carolina, I dated this guy and he called me Suge. And so when it came time for my rebirthing, I just put it up there. Why I wanted to use that, I have no idea. So
I
I just
love
kind of
that.
with the SUG, and it was like I knew struggling was the S. I knew that,
Mm-hmm.
and so I just threw it up there, and I just started playing with, and that's where struggling under grace came from. And I'm like, that is so me. That is so everyone, and that's where living life unapologetically from the past came. Because as I was reconciling all the things that I allowed, that I did, that I experienced, whatever. I allowed myself to be to live life, okay, and be unapologetic of that.
Right.
If there was a fault that a wrong that I did with someone, if I ask for forgiveness. So it's not just a matter of, oh, I'm just going to live life unapologetic. No.
Oh, there's a stark difference. I mean, that's a stark difference. And
Right. It means taking ownership of those things. If there's forgiveness of yourself, forgiveness of other people that you need to do, then you do that. And then after it's done, be unapologetic of it. And so that's how I've tried to live my life. That's how I do live my life. And that's the journey that I take other people through, and what I try to help other people as I coach them, as I just talk to people. We all have been through something, some more
100%.
severe than others. Now, I'm not here to say, it's not like this whole divorce has been rose colored. No, it's not. On the surface, there's not been contention. But inside, I
Oh.
still have to deal with the same emotions that other divorced, separated, disconnected, now I'm single, 56, 40 years. Sometimes I look in the mirror and I'm like, are you crazy? Could you not have just dealt with it? I mean, come on. Seriously.
You're still questioning it, which is very interesting, because I think that a lot of people do that. I mean, there is a, unapologetic. I always say that it's also people, when I see somebody acting unapologetically, and I never correlate it anymore to something who's just being really rude, because I'll just say they're being really rude, right? Whatever. I'll have other words for that. Unapologetically, it's like they don't care what other people think about them and what they're doing, because it doesn't matter. It's not their life to live. It's your life to live. And you need to figure that out. And it's not going to be smooth sailing. And I always say this, even though you choose to leave, people choose to leave, it's still hard, because you're still dealing with, why did I choose? Why couldn't I have stuck with it?
I have no friends.
Why did it work out? It's still in your head. It's not like you walk away and just say, it doesn't matter. Oh, especially in your case, 30 years, it doesn't matter. No, it is a process, and it continues. It teaches you a lot about yourself, for sure. Whatever that spark that you had inside of you to say, okay, enough is enough, that needed to happen. You did it. And it doesn't matter what other people think.
No.
And I know everyone's going to say, with a man like that, I mean, he sounds like such a honorable, beautiful soul. It's, we're going to say, why couldn't you make it work? Why can you make it work?
And you know what? And it's so funny, because I have this.
All right.
And it says, question, how do you leave a good man? And that's a question, that I've heard, maybe in the Black community, it's like, he's good. He's not beating you up. He hasn't cursed at you.
There's one or the other.
I mean, he brings his money home. Like, okay, yes, that does constitute good character, good traits. Yeah. There's more than that, and then there's this thing, well, the Bible says, for better or for worse. Yes. So when I get to that point, I just say, it was a decision that I've made. No one has asked me that. However, if they're asking for information only, then it's like, it was my decision. It was my journey. If they're
Mhm.
asking, like on this forum, as they're trying to navigate,
Right.
what does it feel like? What does it look like? It looks different for everyone.
Yeah.
People say, when do you know? I just knew.
Yeah.
I knew well, I didn't know at the time. Like I said, I didn't know until I had moved back. So I knew I needed release in 2015. Unsure release from what? It was clear in 2019, release from the marriage.
Right.
So, and if you're able to take that time yet, and we know if your husband comes to you and says, you're laying across the bed or whatever, I want a divorce. Well, hell, you don't have any time to recover right then and there. I had time to think it through. So my
Right.
husband was like the one sitting on the bed. So it
Right.
too depends on where you are, if you're the asker or not, how
Right.
you cover. So I
No,
had,
but it's not, with your husband was on the bed wondering, but at the same time, there was communication involved, and it was, I need space. I need to go. And it's not like I need to divorce you. There's a difference. And, you're saying I need that space. Listen, I always say in arguments, they always escalate if you don't allow to space between that conversation. Something is thrown at you, you throw something back.
yeah,
Okay, woof, breathe, walk away, revisit that later on, right? Because you need to diffuse the situation. And that's in the day-to-day life, right? You got to diffuse, you got to take time, you got to collect your thoughts. Well, with a lifetime with a husband or wife, whoever it is, you need to take that time for yourself, whether it be 3 years or 3 days or 3
yeah.
hours, whatever it is, it shouldn't, you need to, I think coming away from this conversation, what is such an important way, I would say this, if somebody is contemplating divorce, but doesn't know how to do it because of fear of hurting the other person, or you've been together for so long and your identity is tied in as a wife, as and a mother, as whatever it is in there, and you're afraid to rock that boat. I think the best and key takeaway is I need some space. I just need some time. I need to go on my own somewhere, whether it's, like I said, 3 hours, a
3 days,
day. I got to
3
process
years.
something, make them understand something's not right. Make them understand I need to figure out if I can be in this relationship, but not like, I want to divorce you. Done.
Mhm.
And those are
Right.
hurtful things that are said to somebody and not a fleeting things. And actually just by saying, I need time to process this, you go, oh, okay. Yeah, all right. I'll give you that time. And then
Yeah.
it feels less to the heart. And once you do, because you have to have a clear head. You've got to have a clear head when you're
If you're
making these decisions.
But yet we know that that is probably the case. I don't know. I haven't done a study. I would think that in order to have space like I had, that probably happens maybe 20% of the time, maybe 20 or
Right.
30, where the partners are willing, because at that time there was no, I mean, when he said, okay, go, there is no, I could have gone off to Timbuktu, yet I believe that he trusted even the marriage, even though it was fractured at that point, I think he
Right.
trusted it enough to know
He
that
trusted
whatever
you.
decisions would be made, I wouldn't just abruptly just say, serve him with papers. I think he knew that. Yeah,
Yeah.
most of the times we know when our marriages are in trouble. So when most of the times, I think, so when the party comes and says something, yeah, you're caught off guard, yet we see the signs. It's just if we're willing to take notice of the signs. Like I said, when I told him we're going to be in trouble, whether it was taking notice of it. So in the marriage, we need to speak up. We
Yeah.
need to speak up because we do lessons learned from being married. We do our mates a disservice if we hold them hostage for things they never knew about. I
Yeah.
remember being just disappointed and things I knew about, never he disappointed me at, about like if he, because he worked, 2 jobs. So maybe if he went to sleep or I'm unable to remember what those things are, but it goes to communication. We
Right.
hold our mates hostage for things they never know about. And what happened in my case was it just up. So those were some of the things too. It just stacked up, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, he never knew.
Yeah. And you can't go back and recuperate. And that's the hardest bit. I always
No.
say that time is lost, and it kind of festers inside of you, and it's really hard to let that go. That's, an interesting conversation in itself. The communication in a relationship with or without your partner, inside the relationship, or even when you're divorced and co-parenting, and that's a whole nother session. But I definitely, very interesting. I think that this taking time really, really is important to collect your thoughts. And whether it's, like I said, 3 hours, 3 days, 3 years, it doesn't matter. You need that time to sit with it, and by yourself, without their day to day, without, having to do this, attend for the kids, attend for the husband, attend for that, attend for you. It's needed time for yourself, which is really important.
If we would take it, because we've already said, once you take that time and you're committed to learning the truth, you're committed to doing the work, man, you better be committed.
Oh, yeah.
You better be committed, because things that will come up. I have a program that I am creating called In 30 Days.
Great.
We'll just take stock. I mean, just feel everything.
Right.
Everything
Dive in.
for 30 days and take note of everything for 30 days. Yet it brings up so much stuff that a lot of people don't want that.
Yeah.
But once you come out on the other side, oh my gosh, you can shug all day long.
Listen, I love that. I mean, on that note, in fact, on that note, I really want to say that's reminding me of something my mom said. So I spoke to my mother. I speak to my mom every day, but the other day we started talking about our years when we were living in Pakistan when we were kids. And she started, I was 4 years old, I'm 45. So there's a long time ago. I was 4, 5, 6 years old. And she started talking about those years in great detail. And she goes, wow, Laila. Because, wow, I have so many stories from that era that I'm so glad I just started talking to you, because I forgot. And so many things are coming up for me about me in that era, how I operated, what I did, how I saw things and my viewpoints on those things. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. She needed me to talk to me about it, to remember, because it was bottled in a bottle, inside. And it is really important, because that's what we do. We take memory, we take what we go through, our feelings towards that, and we just kind of put it in. And we do need that program like what you're creating. And it's a fantastic way to really, it's accountability to get back in there and go, hey, wait a minute, revisit that. Because that actually probably you start connecting the dots, and then you figure out where, you go to. So amazing program. I can't wait till it's out. Now, on that note, can you please tell everybody where they can find you on social, and your email, or whatever you want to give out on the program?
Yes. And before I do that, I want to thank you again, Laila, for the opportunity. It has been great. So there's several forms. Authentically Shug is just my brand. Authentically Shug is my brand. My life coaching is, and if you want to find me, everything's Shug. So if you just type in SUG, I'm sure you'll find me. But my life coaching is my Shug Spot Life Coaching. And then Warren Leaf and I, Warren is in Connecticut, I'm here in South Carolina. We've partnered together, and we have this network called Our Journey from We to Me. So that's a community for divorced women. I'm sorry, Warren, divorced individuals.
Definitely not just women.
Rewind.
Rewind.
We're working on these programs, and we're doing men and women. I'm sorry. Our Journey from We to Me is a community for divorced individuals. So you can find me on Instagram under Authentically Shug, YouTube Authentically Shug. My Shug Notes, I'm sorry, it's my blog, and my Shug Spot Life Coaching is the coaching program.
Well, I'll put everything in the notes. Don't worry.
Oh my God, that was a whole lot of S and Shug.
We're just going to be like Shug. We're going to just take that away, and we're going to find you as Shug. Thank God everyone will remember that. That's for sure.
And everyone just live life unapologetically of the past. Yet if you need to go to someone and make it right, you do that. Because it doesn't mean I'm just, done with it.
I agree. Well,
Yes.
thank you so much, Shug. This is
Thank
so
you.
enlightening, like always, full of energy and enlightenment. And for
Thank you.
everyone out there, this has been another episode of Divided, Survived, and Thriving. And you can also find me on Instagram at The Split Coach or at Split FYI. And I look forward to hearing from you guys if you need to get in touch with me. All right. Take care.
Lila.